Hi, this is Matt Hugg with Think NP, and today we'll be talking with Taylor Fernley. Taylor is CEO of Fernley & Fernley, the oldest association management firm in the country. And he has some very interesting things to say about his business and working with nonprofits as a consultant. And Taylor, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much, Matt. Looking forward to it.
Let me go through your background here a little bit. Sure. I know, just for the sake of the audience, because I find personally that you're in a very interesting field. So your company, in fact, founded the industry in 1886, and you're, I think, the fourth generation,
That's
right?
Correct, Matt.
Yeah, fourth generation, and the fifth is coming up. And you're an association management firm, and you work with businesses in a variety of industries. And you have professional societies and membership associations, and what about 20 or so at any one time?
Exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I know personally, and we've known each other for a little bit, right? That you are really good at connecting in your industry and in the community. For example, with the American Society of Association Executives, you've been on their annual giving committee. You've been on the Summit Award Steering Committee, the chair of the Association Management Council, and the key committee for the Association Management Council. So you've really been actively involved with that. Plus, you get involved with a lot of community activities. The National Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America Board, the Montgomery County, Pennsylvania Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America Board, the National Liberty Museum here in Philadelphia, the Mid-Atlantic Employers Association, the Gladwin Civic Association, the Bryn Mawr Presbyterian Church Foundation, and I know you love golf, and so the Marion Country Club. Mm-hmm. And so that's great. And plus, I know you get away and do other things too that aren't even association related, because you're have a good interest in fishing. So
correct.
That's really cool. And by the way, congratulations on being awarded the Excellence in Association Management Award. I know that's well deserved. So let's talk a little bit about what your business does and what kind of what's the nature of being an association management firm. What kind of consulting is this?
It's a very good question. I would think that we are probably, besides being a very niche industry out there, are probably one of the most misunderstood. We very simply, in the world of associations, there are two models. There's the standalone model,
right.
The American Bar Association, American Medical Association, a whole bunch of staff doing a whole bunch of things for one group.
Right.
Fernley & Fernley is that association management company model, which means we do everything the standalone does, but we do it for multiple groups, 20 groups in our particular case. Mm-hmm. And we are really, in its simplest of terms, we are a for-profit company managing not-for-profits.
Okay.
But to your point, what do we do? The most visible thing that we do out there is convention and trade show management. We work with the planning committee. We come up with speakers, we negotiate hotel contracts, we do all the on-site meetings management, and whatever follow-up is required. So at meetings, we're the little worker bees that are running around getting things done.
You staff the registration tables, you're behind the curtains and throwing people out on stage.
And that's very important, but that's the administrative side of what we do. Then there's also the leadership side. We have an executive director who would be working with the board of directors, with the executive committee, with the finance person.
On your staff that's assigned to that
employee
association.
of ours.
Right.
And that's a key point, Matt, too, because all of our staff of 45 some odd people are all our employees. They are subcontracted out to the association. Right. So what's fascinating about this business is it gives the client the opportunity to pick and choose. You can have all administrative folks, you can have all thought leaders, or as most people do, a balance in between. But our execs are really the front people to work with the board to help them fulfill their mission. Okay. And I think the Inquirer interviewed me 2 years ago and asked me that one question and said, Taylor, what are you most proud of?
Yeah.
And and I said, that's easy. That is to say that no client has ever asked me or us to do anything that we haven't been able to do. Now, did Fernley and Fernley do it all? In most cases, yes. In some cases, no.
Right.
I might have hired out a Matt to come in and work with us on our proposal. So they really look at us today as, I use the phrase total solution providers.
Okay.
We have access to all this data. And when we propose a piece of business, why we talk about the value of Fernley, it's not the cost efficiencies that can be recognized, 25-30% over the standalone model, but it's all the resources we have at our fingertips.
Right, because you're pooling resources, I imagine, for a number of associations. So one person who's an accountant is working with a handful of groups?
Good point, Matt. And again, another misunderstood fact is most folks here who are executives work on at least 2 accounts, if not 3.
Okay.
So it's division of responsibilities, division of resources to again allow the client to get the best of all worlds. You get the executive talent, you get the thought leadership, and at the same time, you don't have to pay for them full time. You only pay on what you use.
Now, your clients also have their own volunteers coming into work here, or working with them.
That is correct. They're our boss. They're our leaders.
Right.
They come in, and we typically have anywhere between 8 to 28 people serving on a board.
Right.
What they are able to do for us is give us direction.
Right.
They give us focus. And then we're in charge of execution.
Yeah.
And I think Larry Bossidy has a great book out, by the way, entitled Execution. And it just talked about how all of us in our business today, we do really well, but we get down to the 5-yard line in the football vernacular and we fumble.
Yeah.
So somehow we've got to make sure the execution is impeccable, and that's where the staff steps in and does that and allows us to push the boards upstairs to focus on more of the strategic component of the industry.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, right? It really does. And so getting engaged in an association is, a lot of times, getting engaged with a firm like yours that a lot of folks may not see that. They don't understand that you guys are behind the scenes until they encounter a little more volunteer with you.
I think we could do a better job of educating our volunteer leaders on the infrastructure of Fernley and Fernley. Most people, whether it be AFP, GPC, or others, you see 2 or 3 front people.
Right.
But you don't realize that behind the scenes, you got 12 to 15 other people who touch the account. And we're trying to do a better job of educating the volunteers that you're buying the package. You're not just buying the front people, but you're buying all these other folks out there who are instrumental in the success of the conventions and meetings and associations we have.
So how did you come down to saying, this is our ideal client, this is where we need to be, the people we need to be talking to, or how did you figure that out?
That's another very good question, Matt, because for 120 years, Fernley and Fernley managed largely trade associations, distributors, manufacturers. It was our niche, we did it well. Recognizing through globalization, consolidation, that the trades were going to come under attack, and lo and behold, they did. But I anticipated that, and we bought another management company here in Philadelphia, ironically enough, who specialized in the medical healthcare field. So we brought them in to kind of balance our portfolio in terms of what we're looking for. But we're a little different in terms of who we are and who we go after. We have a very rigid selection process for accounts.
So you're not just taking anybody. You are in effect interviewing them.
For 100 years, we took anything with a heartbeat, in all probability.
Yeah.
And it was fine and they stayed like forever. That worked then, but then was then, now is now.
Okay.
The entire landscape has changed. The new normal, call whatever you want. That's we're doing business differently, and we found out that by diversifying our portfolio,
Sure.
but then also identifying who is our sweet spot, I refer to that is. And for us, it's typically the larger management or larger associations that are out there.
Sure.
Budgets that are north of $150,000 a year.
Okay.
And by the way, that is just for the audience, $150,000 would cover everything. It's a flat retainer basis.
Okay.
You draw it at the end of each month.
Right.
And if there are ups and downs during the course of the year, we talk with the volunteers and say, hey, we have to make an adjustment. Typically, if it's within 10, 15%, we don't touch it.
Right.
I mean, it's not worth going back and having a conversation. But if it's larger than that, we come back, and because of the relationships we have with our clients out there, we come to some agreement.
Yeah, and you have to have your cash flow work,
of course,
as well as them. So yeah, that makes sense.
It works out, and it's so much of this just comes down to trust. And I think because most of the volunteers, I mean, they got a business to run.
Yeah,
this is not their full-time
job. There are other business to run, right?
And they kind of come and go with the wind.
Right.
Which is unfortunate from our standpoint, because we've got some great board members like yourself we'd love to keep around for a while, but that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about how do we then develop a farm system of other Matts that are out there who can come on board with us. And something else I haven't thrown out to AFP that I'm going to is we need to also start, I think, forming some kind of an advisory board.
Yeah.
These are people who have gone off the board or gone off the presidency, still active. If we haven't burned them out, they're still active, and we got a couple more years. And why not put them in an advisory capacity to help us think through bigger issues?
No, and so these are the kind of strategic thoughts that are really important that you're bringing to the table to a client. And that's huge.
Well, it's our value proposition.
Right.
It's how we got to be where we are today, because there's a lot of competition that's out there. And some of that competition is not always good, because listen, I love to compete. I'll go toe to toe with anybody. But if they don't know their cost, if they don't understand process and industry expectations and standards that we've set for ourselves, and people do, it's hard to believe, I know, people might violate those from time to time. Our job, my job in this industry, is really to be a driving force to get people to change the way they do business. Not internally, I don't get involved in any of that, but more philosophically.
So how much cross-pollination do you do? I mean, from, like, you might see something work in one client, and then you say, hey, that's really good, I'll bet that could work for this other client. I mean, do you see, is that one of the things that you do?
Absolutely. We're big followers of the Rockefeller habits, and which means we get together on a regular basis. Every day we get together for a 15-minute huddle with our departments, with our executive team, and we throw out ideas like this.
Right.
Typically at more of a 30,000-foot level, but every month we have a staff meeting where we bring everybody in and they share best-in-class ideas. Again, war stories too. What worked, what didn't work.
Right.
And so everybody can benefit from that, and they all take copious notes, and they go back and they may implement some of those. And then by taking those ideas and sharing them then with your board of directors, you look like a hero. You're a brilliant guy, when in fact we're just tapping into all the resources that we have here, and then we push them all. Professional development's pretty important for us. So we push them out to the ASAE, to the MPI, all this alphabet soup in the hospitality industry. Get them to go out. One criteria is I will not let you go to any group, any organization, because I want you to network everywhere, but so I want you to be there, but I don't want you to get involved. I don't want you to be there if you're not going to become a leader. So a criteria is you've got a short amount of time to get on the board, and which means you've got to prove yourself. So that's a great way, again, of even more information coming in. And then what I do with all of my business groups is take that stuff that's even outside of Fernley and bring that in, and we just got so much information.
So it's more, I like that. So it's more than just joining. So it's not just having your name, the name of the association on your resume. It's getting involved in being a leader that you see is going to really have somebody get a lot out of this.
Well, that's my criteria. That's my expectation.
No, that's good.
Yeah, they come in and the people that are in this office are brilliant people, and many cases they've just never been asked.
Right.
So you send them out to an industry event. You give them permission to do whatever they have to do. They get in a leadership role and they thrive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the talent that we have out there, and by giving them a little more rope, how they're going to shine, and we're all going to win.
Now, does that also help you bring in clients?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We have over the years gone to a PCMA, a Professional Convention Management Association meeting, and come back with a lead.
Okay.
Typically, they're all in the meeting planning side.
Okay.
So not as many decision makers as we would like. So we get more involved with, or I get more involved with the Union League. They have a business leadership forum that I founded about 15 years ago.
Okay.
There's a group called the MEA, the Mid-Atlantic Employers Association out of King of Prussia. 400 decision makers in the tri-state area.
You talked about GP-SEG, Greater Philadelphia Senior Executive Group.
Yep, another great group. They're going to change their name tonight. We're all waiting with bated breath. When I first heard about this, digress a little bit, but Greater Philadelphia Senior Executives Group. It sounded like a bunch of people with retired and one foot in the grave. Yeah, well. And I said, what in the world? They asked me, candidly, because they wanted us to manage it, quite frankly, and I opted against it for a lot of reasons. Yeah, but but they said, if you were in charge of this, what the first thing you do? And I said, change your gosh darn name. I mean, it just the image is not there. But the point being, back to the networking, is we really promote our folks getting out and being a leader in the industry. And oftentimes when they can rub shoulders with the CEOs, like the talk I gave yesterday at the Pyramid Club to the GP-SEG CEO Roundtable, there were like 50 CEOs there. That's the kind of people we were trying to get a hold of.
Well, and you said something else now about, you joined the Union League a bunch of years ago, and you started, what did you say,
It's called the Business Leadership Forum.
Okay. So if something's not there, you're going to go ahead and just start it and go with it. Is that right?
Yeah. The union, not to digress, but the Union League is a social club.
Well, right.
And it's not really for business. So what we tried to form is something that, quite frankly, was against the bylaws. But when we talked to the officers, they loved the idea. So people came in and they networked. Right. And we meet every Wednesday, small groups and then larger groups, and it's a great place to get business. I'll say candidly, I have not gotten one piece of business out of there, but what I have done,
being the founder, that's interesting.
Not one piece of business. I ought to be shot. Where's my marketing potential? But what it has done for me is allowed me to develop hundreds of additional contacts.
Yes.
That I wouldn't have, because I can probably get in front of anybody in this city. Yeah. Now I might have to make a phone call, but you know the right people. Right. You know the players, and it's just great for what I do for this company is because I have access to all these folks, and at the end of the day, we all win. Yeah. No,
that makes a lot of sense. That's very interesting. So. And I feel like I already know the answer to this question because we've been talking about it, right? But just to be plain about it, what's the best way to find clients? What do you think? What if you were to tell somebody?
Be present. Get out there. Find. Well, may I answer that two ways?
Oh, please.
The first way is I have created for myself a set of what I refer to as trusted advisors. Okay. These are people who are not in my inner circle, not my accountant, not my lawyer. Okay. Who are leaders in their industry, who are who challenge the status quo. I want at least 2 of the 10 or 12 to be, I don't want to say devil's advocates.
Yeah,
but people who will, as Vistage organization, that business group that I have referred to, they question your answers.
Yeah, they're not afraid to challenge you.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Because they make me think. Mm-hmm. And so I have a group of them that I meet with, ideally for coffee or a breakfast once every quarter. Doesn't always happen that way. It may have to be a phone call with all of our travel schedules. But, that's one group. But then I think you need to find organizations like AFP or GPSEG and position yourself to be the go-to guy.
Right.
Like GPSEG, I think with my business background, but also nonprofit background, people do look at me as, say, to a fault. I mean, 4 or 5 people a week, let's have lunch. I don't think so. But I got to help them out.
But getting those calls is better than not getting those calls.
Well, precisely. And now they know me as this. You kind of feel like you're put up on too high of a pedestal in some respects.
Yeah.
But they know me, and I think that's all I can ask. But I think back to your question, I think being engaged, being present, being involved. I think by doing that, and no one's got the time to do this, I get it, but you've got to find the time.
Yeah. And
by doing that, you'll be amazed what you find out. I mean, how many business groups do I go to, that you go to, or networking groups? These people don't know how to network.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rather comical when you think about why they're there. They get a stack of business cards 3 weeks later when, they got an hour to kill on a Thursday afternoon. They start working on these. No. There has to be a process. Right. So I think, but again, I think being involved, engaged, and out with the right people is critical.
Well, now this next, that's very important. What you're talking about is getting engaged with people there, and so kind of leads to my next question for you here, which is when somebody starts out, what should they know? And I see you brought some resources here. Maybe this is part of that.
Well, I think they have to know the market,
right.
the nonprofit business, the association field is different out there. It's not corporate world. Mm-hmm. I think you have to recognize that people are in the nonprofit world, to make a difference,
right?
But also to leave some kind of a legacy.
Yeah.
That they as volunteers have driven. Mm-hmm. So I think what you have to do, I've often found people say, well, there's no money in nonprofits, and let me be the first person to dispel that myth. There's plenty of money out there.
Yeah.
But people who get into nonprofits, I think do so for the wrong reason. I think you have to recognize that you're there to fulfill the mission of that organization.
That's huge.
And you've got to check your ego at the door.
Yep.
You've got to listen. Again, God gave you one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. Mm-hmm. You have to be a collaborator, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable and accept that all your ideas will not be accepted.
Yeah.
And so it's being a consensus builder. And that's a real tough thing for people today. And I find that if people can subscribe to that, and maybe one other one here, Matt, is never forget where you came from.
Yeah.
Folks get in there and they're treated pretty well and they get paid pretty well, and they feel that they can kind of change the world. Well, realizing that nonprofits are very slow to change.
Yeah.
But you as a person cannot come in and try to instill new values, old values, whatever it is, in a culture that's existed for maybe hundreds of years.
Right.
And I have found that to be a challenge for many folks out there now.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to also be a good reader, someone who can identify facts, and that's one of the comments, Matt, you alluded to a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many resources for you folks to, kind of take a look at it here. Here's another one, the ASAE we mentioned earlier, the American Society of Association Executives, put this thing out. Fabulous little piece, about 5 years old, more relative today than ever before. It talks about the key trends, demographics, and the choices facing associations and challenges facing associations today. And what we use this for is our execs build off information here, go to their boards, and help them to become more sophisticated, thinking about what others have done that maybe they've not done.
Yeah.
So that was one. Here's another benchmarking report. 907 associations participated in this. Fascinating little piece, going through and just talking about those associations, how they've grown, when they've grown, with whom they grow with, involvement of social media, dues structures, how they market themselves. I mean, just raw data here now. Again, there are 900 of them, so there's a reasonably good sampling in there.
Yeah.
But also data, all we want to do is give the board information
and as
to
somebody,
make them think.
And from your point of view, you're coming in knowing that information, and that's a great way for you to be able to help your clients, is to have that, not to memorize the data, but to know the trends.
That's all the clients, that's what they're looking for us to do for them, is with all this wealth of data, with all these 20 associations we have, with all the groups, networking groups we have, to bring that data into them in some kind of a relative plan that they can discuss. Even if they can't afford it, I have our people come there and introduce it.
Right.
Because if nothing else, we're throwing out ideas. And oftentimes in a board meeting, it's not so much what you say, it's a conversation that triggers off of that conversation.
Yep. Yeah.
That provides meaningful data.
That's good. And these are, this is a directory of associations themselves, is that right?
Yeah, this is a small little doorstop of about 10,000 associations, as we mentioned a bit earlier. So much for privacy laws. This takes every association that's registered with this organization.
Okay.
Talks about who the executive director is, their mailing address, email address, budget, where they meet. It's remarkable data.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of alpha by first name, and then at the end there's a cross-reference by keyword. And even actually, I forgot to mention this, even account executives in the industry are listed in here too, if you're looking for a particular name. So my point throughout all this is just recognizing, in the world of association, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
There is so much you can access. A quick phone call to someone can get you that stuff. And association management companies are particularly well positioned because, they generally are involved with these organizations, and someone like Fernley's been around for a couple of years. We even have more data at our fingertips.
Yeah. So it's it's amazing what you can collect as long as you're using it, as long as you're actively putting it to work for your clients, and that's probably the most important part.
Yeah, it is, and most board members are very interested.
Yeah.
They have to be. But again, I said earlier about execution. We can throw a lot of data at them, but they've got to figure out ways, and that's their job, on how they can use that data within their industry. Because we're not specialists in the Aviation Distributors and Manufacturers Association, even though we've been managing them since 1944.
Right.
But we are the ones who support them in, again, fulfilling their mission.
Yeah, exactly. So, is there anything else? This has really been great. You and I could talk forever, right? So, is there anything else you think would be helpful for our audience to know about consulting with nonprofits, about just working a business, about longevity in business for so long?
Well, I think you've got to be able to take risks. Oftentimes in nonprofit, very conservative. As I mentioned earlier, very slow to move. I mean, it is painful sitting in some of these board meetings.
Yeah.
But for those that are making changes out there, the world is theirs to have. I think I look for people out there right now, and again, you got to be very selective. Like the Ritz-Carlton mantra, they don't hire, they select.
Yes.
You've got to be very careful in a world that's ever changing as to who is your internal customer and who is your external customer, who is your employee, who is your client. And I think today's world, my grandfather, God bless him, one of the last things he said to me was, in the world of associations, Taylor, you have to be a foot deep and a mile wide. Well, I've revamped that just a little bit in today's world, in that you have to be a mile deep and a mile wide.
Yeah.
So you have to use technology to access whatever data it is that you need. You need to have passion in terms of, if you're going to be working that hard, you better have fun. And we subscribe to that wholeheartedly here. And kind of make life. My line is, my goal is to leave this place, country and office, a better place than it was when I came.
Yeah.
And I think if people can subscribe to even just a little of that, the world's going to be a much better place.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for those are great words to part with. Thank you so much for being with us today on Backstage Pass. If somebody wants to find out more about Fernley and Fernley, where should they go? Very simply, first shot would be our website. Sure. www.fernley, that's FERNLEY.com. Okay.
You can always call me. That's telephone number 215-320-3719. That's my direct. And we have people in here that I think we're looking to grow. We're looking for new business, of course. But also I find this time in my career, I'm spending a lot more time helping others get started.
Right.
So if you're even looking at starting an association, if you're having a challenge with one of your associations, happy to talk with you, no charge. I do this stuff, routinely, in kind of the give back, mode again. Right. But there's associations. If you think about the cost of a sales call today, whatever it is, it's got to be north of $400, $450, maybe $500. Yeah. Where else could you get the firepower than going to an association, go to their 2-day booth program, meet 300, 400, 500 people that you otherwise would have to hop on a plane to go see. I mean, do the math. Yeah. And I'm saying that plus the resources they have at the fingertips, plus if you get involved, if you're present with that organization, you're going to reposition yourself in the eyes of your company, in the eyes of the industry, of being a leader, and the dividends of that leads to business. Self-explanatory. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Taylor. My pleasure. Great to be with you. Thank you for watching Think NP's Backstage Pass. I'm your host, Matt Hugg, and today we had with us Taylor Fernley, CEO of Fernley & Fernley, the association management firm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I hope you found today's presentation helpful, and we'll see you later.